Alright, enough with the weird intros. Um, Now it was a cool shot with the sun just coming up over the mountain over there, but we're good. Let's check on our drill because I just turned it back on to save some power. So looks like we're starting to dig down even more. Cool. So we should be able to get to that extension a little later. Awesome. So in between episodes, you'll see I've welded up all of the little scaffolding we have going on. That way we can just look a little more solid, not just random stuff thrown about. And for other reasons that I'll let you guys in on here in a little bit. But first, some big news. Um, we're ready to build our first chip. We have cobalt, we have iron, we have nickel, we have magnesium, silicon, we have ice if we need it. Um, I think we're ready to go. So, the one thing I didn't do with the UI in the last two episodes was actually show you about the little numbers down at the very bottom. That is different toolbars that you can have set. You'll see when we came in, I was set to that toolbar too. Um, that is for different tools that you can have. So you can have up to nine. Um, I only have the first two. The first one is everything we've used up until this point, just where we left off last episode. My second toolbar is basically what we're going to need for our first ship. And generally, it's going to be a mining ship that you're looking for. That's because mining is very tedious. No one likes to do it. And the sun is coming up, so this will be nice. And it just makes it easier. And that's what Space Engineers is about. So we have a tedious task that we want to automate. We have this method, which is working very well. It's a paid actor, I promise. Um, and but we want to be able to go get cobalt. Cobalt we can't get from stone. We have to go out, get it by hand, bring it back, and we can only carry so much at a time. It's tedious. So what we want to do is build something that will help. So what we're gonna do, I have my toolbar set up already, but this is basically what you're gonna need: landing gear, cockpits, a power source of some kind. Normally, it's just going to start out as a battery. You're not going to be able to get to reactors yet because you need the reactor components, and we can't make those. An ore detector, just in case you happen to find an ore that's closer. Gyroscopes, so we can steer the thing. Cargo, because we don't just want to use the cockpit as cargo. Conveyors, so we can move things around easily. And connectors. That way we can actually connect to the base. Everything else you'll need is basically just armor blocks. Make it look as good as you want afterwards. Um, oh, and of course the thrusters because I didn't put those on. So we're gonna go ahead and start with atmospheric. We don't need hydrogen right now. They also cost quite a bit more, so they cost a lot of metal basically. So we want to go with atmospheric first. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out our landing gear, and you see it's trying to be a large one because we're looking at a large grid. If we hit that number one again, it changes to small. Now we can hold that up here, press our middle mouse button, or whatever control was listed in the last video to add it to build planner, or not add it to build planner, but to withdraw components. And there we go. Now we're able to set it down. Now, I'm going to set it down facing away from the main. Generally, you want it just somewhere close to your engine. So, somewhere you can get quick access to parts and stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and weld this up. It is backwards. So, Everybody who knows what they're doing, don't yell at me. I know. I don't plan on keeping this for very long. So next we are gonna need cockpit. Now you don't have to go in this order, but it's also nice to do. It also kind of helps you get things organized. Now I generally go with either the industrial cockpit or this regular one. The regular one is going to cost less. You can see the industrial cockpit has a bunch more stuff. Regular cockpit is just plain old regular parts we've already used. And we don't need the bulletproof glass, so I'm not even going to worry too much about it. Now, I'm not too worried about the cockpit being piped up to the containers we're going to. What we can do is go ahead and get our drill that we had from last episode. If we look at it, oop, that way. We want if it'll help me out here. So the drill for small ships has ports on the back and both sides. You can see it on the right hand side of my screen. So we can go ahead and see if it will let us. I need to wait. It's still trying to pull stuff from there. Go ahead and we can get this loaded up. We'll go ahead and clear that out. Make sure those were put to production. Yep. Cool. So we have a drill and we have a cockpit. Looking good. So now what we need to do is we have this cockpit, but it only has two small ports. The problem we're going to run into is the cargo container we would be using has two small ports in the center on two sides, but then two large ones. We could put one like that, but then we can't get one on this other side, so it kind of just gets wasted. What we can do is go into our menu, go into conveyor. There's this part called the conveyor converter. We want to grab that. We're just going to replace that landing gear. So the conveyor converter has three small ports on the back and one small port on each side, but it has this large cargo conveyor on the back. So what we want to do is make sure those three ports are going side to side. Just flip it around, put it on. This basically converts those two small ports in the back of the ship with it converts them to the large port that we need for our cargo. What are we doing? Just make me 100. Thank you. All right, there we go. Now, if we go back to our cargo container, we can make sure the small ports are on the sides. The big port is in the back. If you have interior flaps. Cool. Yep, and be done. Go. So we have cargo, we have a cockpit, we have a drill. One thing that I want to show you though is this cargo container holds 3,000. Our person holds 1,200. That is if you have not set up the inventory size of your person. So we want to make sure that we're able to lift with this completely full. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we do the thrusting. But right now, what we want to do is get on to the next piece, which is power. So we got batteries. Biggest thing about batteries is uh let me get one of those put to production. That part. When we build our batteries, the one thing we're gonna have to watch is the power cells. If you put it in the wrong place and you weld it completely full, you are not gonna get those power cells back when you grind them off. Power cells do not get uh, returned to you, so just keep that in mind whenever you put. Yeah, that's gonna be it. But we're good. All right. Now we are also gonna put one on this side, just to make sure we have enough power. Clear that out. I always make sure first, because you never see. I gotta do it again. 'Cause it was wrong. Cool. So we got our batteries, and one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a second cargo container here. And the biggest reason why is one, it's just more storage. Two, that I can put stuff on the side of this that I would have to try and cram on the rest of the ship. It could be done, but I don't want to do it. So I'm just gonna make my life a little easier and do it this way. Now we got our last interior plate. Sounds like my grill's having fun. Um, so now that we have cargo, we have a battery, cockpit, and a drill. Next thing we want to do is make sure we can steer this thing. Because last thing you want to do is be able to get up and go, but not be able to control it. So what I'm gonna do is actually just put my gyros here on the side. Now these do have a front to them, but on in an atmosphere and on these ships, it doesn't necessarily matter, to be honest with you, which way you put them, because they're always going to go off of the main cockpit. So I'm generally put this one with kind of the eyeball in the center towards the front. I'm just going to put one there, and I'm going to go ahead and put one on the other side. I don't like that. And we'll get these welded up. Go ahead and get all the parts. Now you don't have to put them balancing on the ship. Vanilla Space Engineers, balancing an aircraft is kind of moot. It doesn't really matter. So you can put them anywhere. You want to put them on top of the cockpit, you want to put them underneath the cockpit. By all means, have at it. I just like doing this for symmetry because I'm a little OCD. Next, we're going to get our thrusters. That's going to be kind of the way we move around. So we're going to need them. So we're going to want at least a couple in every direction. Space Engineers does not have aerodynamics by default in the vanilla game. So if you have thrusters in only one direction, you're not going to be able to use just air resistance or anything like that off the get go. There are mods for it, and they are very fun. And I personally don't play without them, but they doesn't come standard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one lifting thruster there. I'm going to go ahead and put, well, let's see. We will just go 3 there. And I need more parts. So let me just get a bunch of steel plate. And 3 there. You don't necessarily need this much. 4 could probably be enough, but I want to be sure. I like insurance that it's not going to crash and burn on me. So we have our lift. Next, we need our downwards. You don't need downward thrust, but in a miner, it's very handy because some of the vanes can get kind of tilted with the voxels. So in case our ship rolls over while we're flying or drilling, or it tilts a little too far to the side, we want to be able to hold ourselves in the air still. So I'm going to put the same amount going downwards. We can turn these off when we get into the cockpit, but for right now, that's pretty much what we're going to use. Now, we need forward, because that's kind of the most important. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to see, doesn't look like I can. I was going to try and sneak it underneath, but it doesn't look. So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to put one there and one there. Forward, I'm not too worried about since it's kind of the least direction. As long as we have good lift, we can always tilt a little bit to give us a hand. But what I'm going to do, instead of just 2, I'm going to try and get 4. Just to ensure. Because we are going to have a little bit of weight. This could very well be overkill. And it most likely will be. But like I said, I like insurance. Now we also need some reverse thrust. Mainly because you want to be able to get out of a hole, especially if you dig down at an angle. You need to be able to go backwards. And just for general purpose steering, it's kind of your reverse. So, oh, and the one thing I forgot to mention about the thrusters, this end of them with the engine or the fan on them can be right up against another block. This way, on the other hand, where the actual exhaust of the engine, it needs to be on small thrusters around 2 to 3 blocks. And that is for the large thrusters, I think, is like 4 or 5. I could be off on that. It's been a while since I've actually tested it. Normally, the rule of thumb with any thruster could go from atmospheric, hydrogen, to ion. You want to make sure that exhaust has no blocks in front of it. Now, if you're putting them on the interior of a ship just to kind of give them a little bit of, uh, or to keep them hidden, I should say, because sometimes you just want to keep them hidden because they look bad on the outside. Um, by all means, just make sure you have the clearance. Now, the other thing we're going to need is sideways thrust. So we want to be able to strafe left and right. You don't necessarily need it, but on a miner, it's highly recommended because, like I said, some of your holes can actually get you slanted. And you can see the side thruster on my jetpack. It's actually what's holding me up. So if that happens to our ship, we want to be able to stay in the air long enough to at least correct ourselves and then keep going. So as long as we have enough to keep up, we'll be good. So I'm going to go ahead and put, oops, one there, and then one there, and one there. And all I'm going to do is flip it around and do it again. That way we have them going in both directions. Cool. Now we have both sets of thrusters. We have thrusters going in every direction. So let's go ahead and get it all welded up. This is where it's going to be a little tedious. So might as well get going. I'll see you when it's done. All right, this should be the last one. And there we go. Now, technically, this thing is flight worthy. So, we're not going to hop in it yet. I know, kind of tricked you there. But we're not going to. Because we still want a way to get this connected to the base. Because when we actually go get ores and stuff like that, we don't want to be sitting here, going into the inventory, taking stuff out, and putting it over here. Space Engineers has a solution for that already. They are connected. So what we're going to do is we are going to put one right on the back. We want to make sure it's actually lined up there because it has the big port on the back side of it. So we want big port to big port, always. And then small ports to small port. So we want to put the big port right there. And then we also want to have a spot on the base for this to go. So this is a back parking ship or a rear connector ship, whatever you want to call it. Some people call them under connectors. Some people call them under connect, back connect, front connect, side connect, whatever you want to do. What we are going to do, instead of putting this one just here, because that means we would have to put the ship vertical, I'm just going to go ahead and put it on the back side. This way, we can just back right into it, connect the connectors, and be done. So, blammo. And these do not have, like, a correct orientation. It's just a matter of what you think looks good. So, we'll get these welded up, and we'll be good to go. And we're done. So, we got a connector there. We got a connector there. We're pretty much ready to go. We'll do a double check. We got the drill, do the drill. We got the cockpit connected to the drill in the right way so that it feeds through and goes into our cargo. We got batteries for power. We got thrust in every direction. And we have our connector to connect with. So, time has come. Let us hop in the cockpit and show you what we got. Now, first thing I'm going to do is press Y. The reason I pressed Y is so we can turn off those batteries, just so they don't die on us. That way, we don't use any charge while we're in here. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select in the search bar, type in THR. That's going to bring up all of the thrusters. So I'm just going to select all of these. And I'm going to go to block group and just put in minor thrusters. What this does is we can now turn off show block in terminal. And if we get rid of that THR in the search bar, all of those thrusters don't show up. They're all right here. We can change the settings of them all at once. It's similar to going to gyroscopes and coming into here and being able to adjust both of them at one time. Just saves us the time. Plus, there's another reason for it that I'll get into here in a second. We're going to do the same thing with our batteries. Minor batteries. Save that. These ones we can leave on in the terminal. We don't have 1,000 blocks on this ship. So we're not going to have to hide everything and then just show it. These I'm just going to leave here. That way we can see, okay, it's got current output is 0. Stored power is 298 kilowatt hours. Same thing with this one, 298 kilowatt hours. Now, if we have both of them selected, it'll tell us it has 597. But if we turn them on, it doesn't say how long they have. We have to do select one, and it's fully depleted in 4 days. Now, keep in mind, when you first build any ship, fully depleted in 4 days is not accurate. If I go over to landing, turn off auto lock, hit unlock to unlock us from the battery, or unlock us from the base, you can see my thrusters are now holding the weight. So if we go to our battery now, that suddenly drops to 23 minutes. This is how we get a more accurate reading of how our batteries hold up. So if I come down just a little bit, and I will show you how to do the locking stuff a lot easier than this, because it says ready to lock. So we can hit lock, and it's locked. I turned off auto lock, but you can keep that on. That way you can automatically lock to a grid, to the voxels, basically anything that gets touching the bottom of that landing. But now that we have that stuff done, I'm going to go ahead and rename all of this stuff just for future purposes. When we have a bunch of stuff connected to the base, we can see all of this stuff when the ship is connected through the connector. So just to keep it simple and so I can see what I'm looking at and know what I'm looking at, I'm just going to go ahead and put minor in front of all of this. There we go. Now, gyros, I'm going to go ahead and put in their own group as well, just for future purposes. That one I don't want to show in terminal, simply because the only time I ever really touch the gyros after this point is if I have to override. And that's if the ship flips and it can't flip back over by itself on only thruster power. Gyros are kind of OP when they're overridden, and you can sit there and do barrel rolls with them. If you have enough of them, I should say that. But that's about the only time, and I'm usually using all of my gyros for that. Everything else, we'll leave as is. And be good from there. The cockpit is another thing I want to go over. We can see our little screens down here. We are able to customize those screens. So we have our elevation, our power and hydrogen levels, and our gravity output. Say I want something else. I want to make the top right screen something else, because I already know the planet gravity. I don't need that to be on the screen. Maybe I want my jukebox UI. Well, That's unavailable. So then I'm going to go to a digital clock. I don't know what time it is. But that blue and white can be a little hard to see. So I'm going to go ahead and make the numbers red and the background black. And then I'm going to do that with the rest of the screens as well, just to keep them nice and uniform. The center screen, if I go up here, I'm going to leave it green, just so that way it's a little bit of a different thing, and it looks kind of old school, uh, asteroids kind of deal. Um, Everything else in here we're gonna go ahead and keep the same, but when you get into larger ships, you can have multiple seats, multiple cockpits. That's where a lot of these come into play. Control thrusters. Sometimes if somebody else is in a different seat, you don't want them to control thrusters, so you would turn it off. Control gyros for the same reason. Inertia dampeners, we're going to keep on. Show horizon and altitude, we're going to keep on because we want to know where we're at. Main cockpit means this cockpit is the only one able to control the ship at all. So other cockpits may be able to adjust settings, but they're not going to be able to steer. They're not going to be able to thrust. Enable target locking with this cockpit. Yes. So say you build a fighter ship with two cockpits, one gunner, one pilot. You don't want the pilot to really be able to lock onto targets because he should be busy flying. So you want the gunner to enable target locking. That's basically what that's for. When you get into rovers, handbrake and park will become a thing. Park, we are never going to use. So pressing P to park and unpark a vehicle, I never do. Mainly because everybody forgets when they use wheels or they put a landing gear on. They always forget to check this used for parking. So when I'm playing with friends, and I even forget it, I'm not going to count myself out of that. When I'm playing with friends, when I'm playing with myself on the game, get your head out of the gutter, I always forget to uncheck this. So when you hit P on anything, on any ship that is attached by a connector, it releases the landing gear for every ship on them, used for parking. So if everybody forgets to check this or uncheck this, and one person on the grid presses P to unlock their ship, everybody's ships fall off. So we never press P, ever. What we do instead is, if we have a rover with wheels, we will use handbrake. And I'll show you how to get to that later in another episode when we actually build a rover. So we have everything named, everything says minor. Batteries I'm not too worried about because, well, let's go ahead and put it in there anyway, just for reference sake, because we're leaving them shown. That way we don't forget later. Alright, so we have everything named, everything's good to go. Let's go ahead, turn our batteries back off so we're not wasting power. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to press G or whatever it is to open up the block menu. So to get to this menu is the same button we're going to press while we're in the cockpit. Now this shows you all the blocks that are not armor blocks on your ship. So we have all of our thrusters, our 2 batteries, minor cockpit, minor connector, gyros, drill, etc. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the cockpit and we're going to bring it down here. And where's it at? We're going to do handbrake on and off. This is what you would do if you had a rover. So say your first ship you built, same thing I did, but you decided to put wheels on it instead of thrusters. This is what you would use instead of P. Never use P. So, but since we're in a flying ship, we're going to go ahead and not use that. What we are going to use is our landing. So we're just going to do switch lock. If we just hit unlock, we're never going to be able to lock it if we don't have auto lock. So we're just going to do switch lock because we can lock and unlock with that. Next thing we want to do is grab our connector. Same thing, switch lock. This way we can connect and disconnect without having to worry about the landing gear, and we don't have to hit P. Never hit P. So we're going to use switch lock to do that instead. Next, we're going to go to groups. We're going to grab our batteries. And we're going to make them recharge on and off. This way, when we connect to the base with the connector, we can throw our batteries into recharge, and the base will actually charge the batteries for us. Next thing is the thrusters, because we want to be able to turn them on and off, so they're not sitting there running 24/7 and making that weird noise that they do. After that, the last thing we want to do is go to block tools and drill. Now this one I'm going to drag off to the side a little bit just so I don't accidentally hit it by accident. But when you use a block tool, you can't really select what you want to do with it. It's just going to use it. So sometimes you'll have welders or grinders on one ship, and you want to be able to switch between welding and grinding. Well, that's how you do it. So you'll have your drill there, a welder there, and a grinder there, and that's how you would switch between which one you operate. But we just want that one so we can actually use it. Now, our ship is still off. We have no power. Screens show offline. Let's go ahead and get it connected to the base so we can charge it up a little bit and show you how we do the connection. So we're going to press Y to power on. And then we're going to hit 1 to unlock the landing. Next thing you're going to do is press spacebar to go up, and then from there it is your typical movement speed. Same controls you have with your jetpack is how you control this ship. So it should be relatively easy to get used to. The only thing you're going to have to get used to is the kind of the depth perception. That, and there's no rear view mirrors. So this part will usually go in third person. Now we're going to try and get that as close as we can, but you can see it kind of jerked me over as soon as it got close enough. That's actually the magnetism of the ship. Now we're going to press number 2. See, it says proximity. That means it's close enough to be connected, and the rings turned yellow. So we're going to hit number 2, and we are connected to the ship. Simple as that. Now I'm going to go ahead and unlock because I want to show you something. So it shows blue when we unlock, right? What ends up happening sometimes is if you have a small ship and you are connected to the base, the magnetism will actually be a little too strong. Or space engineers just bugs out sometimes. And magnetism is just way stronger than it ever needs to be. It's a small thing. It's not that hard to fix. What we're going to do is we're going to hop on out. You can use a control panel, or since I have build vision, I'm going to do it here. I believe I can. Yes. So there's the setting for strength that we want to look at. You can turn that down. That will solve the problem of the connector being too strong for your ship to pull away. So I'm just going to connect again. Now we're going to press number 3, and you'll see down there on the batteries, it changed the charge, and it shows us 25%. Then we're going to press number 4, turn all of our thrusters off. Now the only thing that should stay the same is number 1, which is our landing gear, because it's quite frankly not connected to anything, so it don't matter. We're not using it to stay in place. Now, if I open up our control menu by pressing K, you'll see I can see everything on the base that I could if I was standing on it. I can even go into production and say I want 100 steel plates, just because I'm connected to the base. Now, what we want to look at is our batteries. Because we put them on recharge, it says they're going to be fully recharged in 5 hours. Not the greatest. But that is only because we have only 5 wind turbines. What we can do is add more of those. Or, on the second hand, we can go get some ice and put down a couple things. But just to keep it simple for right now, I'm going to go ahead and add 5 more wind turbines. Just to get us built up a little bit and be ready for that episode with the ice and the engines and stuff when we come. Right now, we don't necessarily need it. We're still good on power as we are. We're just going to add a couple more wind turbines. So I'll be back here in a second. So actually, I changed my mind. We are going to do a solar tower. Now, with the Automatons update, they made it really cool that we can do solar tracking with solar panels now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a tower. It's going to be pretty tall for here on the mountain because we don't get much sunlight as it is, because we have the giant base of this mountain behind us taking up pretty much half of the day's sunlight. So I'm going to go ahead, get a tower built, and I will show you what we've got going on when I get it done. Just to kind of save some time, and I'll show you all the parts and pieces that we have. Alright, so we have our solar tower. You can see all I did was I extended the base a little bit. I think I brought it like 5 blocks this way. Not too bad. But then I just ran it up just so we can make sure it stays clear of our wind turbines. You can run this in any direction. But I figured I'd run it this way just to give us as much sunlight as possible when it comes over that hill. Might not be much, but every little bit counts, right? So basically what we did is we put it up as tall as we need necessary. So the sun's just starting to come over that hill. So I think just above the trees is where I'm going to put it. That way it can get as much sun as soon as it breaks that hilltop. But then we went ahead and put a rotor. On top of that, we went and put a and then we placed our first block, and then we put a camera on there. Now, the camera, we have to make sure that the little green dot is bottom left. So when you actually pull that, it'll have a white dot on it. It'll change green when it's actually powered, red when it's off, etc. So we want to make sure that that bar on top and the white dot bottom left. The rotor and hinge I kind of just placed because this is going to be controlled by an AI turret or a turret controller. It's being controlled by AI through the turret controller. Sorry, a little bit of a tongue twister. This is a lot of solar panels when starting out. I just went ahead and went big because I wanted to wait until the sun came up. So I pretty much just spent all night making solar panels. Now, what we can do is we have our turret controller. Now, this one I have set up already just so we can get a reference and to test that out and everything else. But I went ahead and put a second one so I can run through this with you. So I'm going to turn this one off and it's going to remain on. This one is going to be our new solar controller, basically, is what I'm going to call it. So what we're doing is we got all of our solar panels in a group just so they don't take up all the space like I should do with the wind turbines. But then we want to make sure that that rotor that we put on is named. I named the camera, and we have the hinge. And let me just type in solar here so you can see how I did it. So I named the rotor with dash solar, hinge, dash solar. Our two controllers have solar, and the camera has solar. This way, all I have to do is type in solar, and basically I can find everything we need. So, what we're doing with our turret controller, again, the first one's still off. So, we want to come down here. Our azimuth, that is going to be our left and right. We want the rotor to control left and right, because that's what it's doing. It's taking that whole top end of the tower and going left, going right, whatever it needs to do. Elevation rotor, that's going to be our hinge, because that's going to tilt the tower back and forth, changing the elevation of it. The assigned camera is going to be our camera. Now, one thing to note, always do the camera last. If you don't, the sometimes what'll happen is the options for what we're looking for are not going to show up. So actually, I will show you what I mean. So it says over here, error with everything. So if you have your camera name, because that's the only camera on the base, you go ahead and choose it first. And we go ahead to our hinge, our rotor. There's no option here to track the sun. All you have to do is go in here, change that to none, and select it again. Now we get a lot more options. One we're looking for is always aim at the sun. Before we hit that, though, I want to make sure the rest of this is turned off, just in case. And then we just hit on, and if we watch our tower up here when we click it in 3, 2, 1, bam. Tower moves by itself, and we have a solar tower. And it has AI tracking. So even you console players can now have solar tracking solar tower. Before the whole Automatons update, console players would have to do some math to get um, rotors and hinges to move at the same speed as the sun. That ain't fun. And then for PC players, we had a script that could run, basically do the exact same thing, and it wasn't fun either. So, what we are able to do now is do one of those. We can advance that even more and make it a little better, which I will show you how to do at another episode when we start getting into the little more advanced AI stuff. Because we'll do that in the same episode that we do our drill, and we'll do it with the solar towers. But right now that we have more power, let's go ahead and let's check the batteries on our miner. Batteries, here we are. Everything's under miner, so we could have just typed in miner. Fully recharged in 10 seconds. Now, granted, I've been going for maybe about an hour, and definitely not 5 hours. So, down to 10 minutes. We are doing good. Now, while that's finishing up, one thing I want to do, now that we have excess power on the base, we want to get some batteries on this base. That way, during the night, when this goes out, we can have a surplus. That way, we're not running out and worrying about getting batteries charged on the ship. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and turn this one off. Go ahead, turn this one on, and put it back to always aim at the sun. And get, because I don't want extra stuff until we need it. I'm sure we will need it for something else. But for right now, we're just going to. So let's find a place. We can use the same batteries you used for our ship. This is what they look like. And to be honest, I think what I'm going to do is put them right in. Because why not? I'll always have visual on them. I'll always be able to see them. And we'll be good. For right now, I'm only going to put 3. Just because they are very expensive. The large grid ones are anyway. So you want to make sure you're able to afford them. Well, you can afford them. Where we are at in this stage, you can definitely make them. It's just going to take some time. But that's okay. Get one up, and then by the time you get enough for the next one, you'll be watching my next episodes on how to do all the other stuff anyway. So you'll need that extra power. Get rid of all the extra steel plates, stuff I don't need. There we go. Now I was a little prepared for this because I planned it out in advance. While I was building stuff, I just had a bunch of stuff queued up. So it might take you a little bit. You might have to get some materials and all that kind of stuff. But we have our first battery. And then these two, we can get done as we need them. But if we look at this one, it says fully depleted in 12 minutes. Not great. That means we're still using more power than before. So, what we are going to do is just put it on recharge for right now. And I'm just going to put base in front of this. That way, we know. So I light is yellow. And when the sun goes down, we'll have excess power from the battery. All right. Let's take a look at our miner. into it. Go up to our batteries here. Just fully recharged at 12. So something was using power, or still is using power. Guessing it is gonna be the refiner, or we lost a little bit of stuff. Either way, the refinery is probably kicking in, trying to use power. I don't know. Either way, we're at 89% down, according to our battery thing on our hotbar. So we're gonna go ahead and put that to auto, turn on our thrusters, and press number 2 to get unlocked. Scroll in, see where we are. We're good. See, we just had a little bit of that lock strength issue. We're okay. Cool. I like it. Now, what I'm gonna go get first, feel free. You can get whatever you want first. You're gonna be getting a lot more in between the episodes and as you build different stuff and everything else. So, what I'm gonna get first though is the ice because I want to be able to refill my hydrogen and be able to fly around. And I think I'm down to like 250 ish. What I'm gonna do is just coming close. The one thing I forgot to put on this ship was the ore detector, because my 3 brain cells were out of order. So I'm just gonna come over here with my drill. Ice is 20 some meters directly down. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drill straight to it by hand. And then we'll just use the drill on the ship to follow it. If we hit something else on the way, this will be our way of getting it. Magnesium has like a blue tint to it, which I think I just hit. Oh no, this is the ice. Okay. Cool. So we're gonna go out, hop back in our miner, and if you were smart enough to put the ore detector on while we were building everything else, kudos. You're better than me already. So we're gonna make sure that drill on our hotbar is highlighted. Console is gonna be left click or left trigger. PC is gonna be right click. We're just gonna hold that down. Just follow our tunnel here. Now this is where it's gonna be testing how well we built our ship. Because if we look, I'm standing up straight. It is holding itself up. So those 4 thrusters were pretty good. Now when it starts getting weight into it, that's when we're gonna find out. So instead of left trigger or right click, we're going to left click for PC and right trigger for console. We're gonna actually pick up that stone. You can see it on the little bar above our toolbar that it's actually picking stuff up. Another way we can ensure is we stop drilling, we press K or go into our inventory, and we can see we've picked up ice. And we've already almost filled that both containers actually. Holy crap. So we only need a little more. can see, I'm holding reverse, and I am not going very fast. I am able to hold myself up, but these thrusters are just way overweighted. So what we're going to do is we're going to tilt back a little bit, try to get out of here, try to get as level as possible. And then I'm going to, uh-oh, I'm actually sinking. Okay. So I actually do need to add more thrusters to this because holding level, my front thrusters aren't doing any lifting. And those 6 thrusters that we put on for just lift are not doing it. So we will need more thrust. But that's why we do this close to home. That way we can get everything figured out. Orient myself here where I can see. Make sure we don't break anything. So this is what I meant by you can kind of finagle a little bit. Because technically my front thrusters are lifting just a hair. You can see the plume coming out of them, whereas the other ones don't have anything. So we are going to kind of just limp our way back to base. And hopefully not fall out of the sky. I got 20 minutes. See if we can make it. What I want to know is my base should be just up the hill. I can see it from here. I can see the drill. That's getting close. So what I'm going to do, instead of going to the connector and trying to work this, I want to keep all this weight in here for now and try to get on the platform. Use that landing gear a lot better. There we go. Now we can let the weight of it slowly bring it down. And as soon as we see ready on that number one, go ahead. Cool. So let me give this thing a quick overhaul, and I will show you the right amount of thrust we need. First, we'll have to start off by getting rid of all this. All right, ready to see what it looks like. So I did build the ship at the beginning with less thrust on purpose, just so you can get the experience of testing the ships and seeing how they work when there isn't enough thrust. Giving those examples can sometimes hurt at first, but it gives you the experience you need to figure out how to do it. That way, you can do stuff like this. So, I put 2 extra thrusters on the front, and that holds it beautifully directly in place. If you look at how long these plumes are, though, we could
Fuel
probably do
critical.
with 2 just to relieve stress on those thrusters. But it holds itself. Same thing going flat, sets itself up. actually very good
Fuel critical.
with just these two large thrusters. I'm gonna go ahead and put that back in there. I did take those out when I disconnected because I moved our thrusters back, and I have six because let me get some hydrogen. I'll show you because I added a couple more of those conveyor converters just behind the connector just to extend it out. All I did was match it that way first. So the big end went against the cargo container, which left us the three. And then I kind of just flipped it like that. Makes it easy, right? And then you can just extend the connector. Now, I did add two more sideways thrusters as well, just in case. That gives us a little bit of tilt and help getting from being sideways. Now, is this the perfect ship? Absolutely not. This is by far the perfect and most efficient miner you can do, but it is thin, it gets the job done, and in the future, I can turn it into an AI drone. So that is why I built it like this. Kind of preparing us for future episodes and getting into actually somewhat of auto mining. We're going to combine a lot of bunch of stuff. But first, we got to fix our connector here. Got to make sure all of our stuff is in the same uh, groups. So we just click that minor thrusters one we did before. Make sure we have all the other ones selected as well, and just hit save. And then just hit that a couple times to get those other ones to turn off too. Then we have to change that to minor connector. See, not so bad. And we'll just take that two off just to make it simple. And then the only thing we got to change, take this one off and bring that one on. Beautiful. Now we can get connected up same way we did the first time. Just like that. 2, 3, 4. Perfect. We got us our first miner. We went and got our first material. And we have a solar tracking, although jerky, solar tower. Which I'm curious. How is our stuff doing? Is it doing something? Um, let's go with battery. Oh, those are the two we have on the base that's still active. Yeah, two. What we're looking for is minor battery. So now it says 42 because we did use it. And while I was doing that, I looked back at the footage. It went from 10 to 12 because I did turn the batteries from charge to auto. So we're good. Alrighty. Now, the last thing I'm going to do, just to keep everything kind of neat, is just keep that solar tower. We're going to group that together. We're going to turn it off in terminal. All that does is just give us the group of it. So all we have to do is hit that, show block in terminal, highlight all of the parts for us. Plus, it keeps this control panel off. You don't have all the random stuff. Like we're gonna take these wind turbines. Just do that. You don't have to do this. I'm just a little OCD about it, so we're good. I have not done the uh, little drill setup yet because we're gonna be adding to that. We're gonna add stuff to the solar tower too, but the drill stuff I'll be doing in the next episode. So we'll be good. All right. With that, we've built our first miner, our first ship, nonetheless. We have built a solar tower, and it's sun tracking, for that matter, which, to be fair, is before automatons. A lot of this was not possible. Like that drill moving by itself, the solar tracking on the tower, it you just couldn't do it. And the stuff we're gonna be getting into, there was no way. So with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a good one, everybody.